Yeah, let's see. Yeah, here we go. So this is concept 4, and we're going to talk a little bit more about linked lists, and then we're going to talk a little about some dictionaries. So last time, in the last lesson, we talked about linked lists, and you remember that we'd had some linked lists with just a first name, last name, and basically we'd created names for Mickey, Mono, Ken, and what we had done is for in this we had Mikhail Huff and a pointer to the next node, and then Mono Huff and a pointer to the next node, and Ken Huff, and then a pointer to null, which would indicate that the linked list is done. So I just want to point out that this is called a singular linked list. You can also have a doubly linked list. And all that the doubly linked list means is that every node, in addition to pointing forward, will also have a pointer back. So what you could do is you could put on another little pointer here, and this pointer would just point back over here. And this would make this a doubly linked list. And you'd do the same thing here, and at the end it would still point at null. Here the extra node would point back at null. And having a doubly linked list, what that would do is just allow you to traverse this list both forward or backwards, which sometimes can be convenient. For instance, if you were on Ken and you wanted to get back to the first, there'd be no way to just get back there. But if it was doubly linked list, you could just move back too. And then there's something called a circular linked list. And a circular linked list just means that the last node, instead of pointing at null, simply points back to the first node in the list. And what that means is you'd go around in circles. And you have to keep track of where you are. It's a little bit more difficult to keep track. However, sometimes that can be very useful as well. So these are the concept of linked lists. Now, your assignment this time is to create a dictionary linked list. And so a dictionary, I want to talk about that concept first. So a dictionary is basically just a set of what they call key value pairs. And so what you have is a key. In this case, I've got a bunch of names of Premier League players and the teams that they play for. So in this case, the name is the key and the team is the value. So if you wanted to look up and find what team Giroud plays for instance, you would pass in Giroud as the key, and you'd get the value Arsenal back. If you passed in the key Defoe, you would get the value Sunderland back. So these are key value pairs. Each one of these is a key value pair in here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 key value pairs in this list. Again, the name being the key and the value being the team. So now what we had in your assignment coming up is they said that we should be starting from, in this your examples, they have an integer list example, and what they have in here is a linked list of integers. So what they did is they created a thing called a node, which corresponds to those nodes I was showing you before. But in this case, what's in that, the main part of the node is an integer they called item. And then they have a node next. And if we went back to our linked list over here, they basically just had an integer here and then the next value pointing over there. So what we have here is an integer with node, and what we want to do is to create a dictionary. So how could we create a dictionary? Well, if we take a look at this integer node, and then we decided that we wanted to replace it with, say, a dictionary node. So what I've done here is I've created a new class node which contains a string for the player name, a string for the team name, and then the next. Just like over here in their example, I just created a next here. So if you look here, what I've done is created two strings, player and team, to replace their int item. And now all you have to do is, if we take this class and put it in there, we'd have a dictionary. So for instance, again, we've got this dictionary of keys and values. Here we would have, in this class, a key and a value. Now this thing here, or over here in their integer class, this is called a constructor for the node. And a constructor is a simple way to initialize the values. So if we wanted to instantiate one of these nodes, in other words, actually create one, again, this is a class definition, which is the definition of what the class will look like, but when we actually make one, that's called an instance. So if we wanted to instantiate one and make an instance, we would say variable name something equals new node, and we could pass in, say, first the name and the team. And the name, the first value passed in here is Ozil. that would come in as this P, and we would assign it to our internal variable called player. In here, the second string we pass in is Arsenal. That would come in as this string T. We would assign T to the team, and we'd have a node where the player is Ozil, the team is Arsenal, and then the node next, just like before. So if we took our class here, our node class, and we replaced this node class in their integer implementation, we'd have a linked list of these dictionaries instead of a linked list of integers. Most of the rest of these methods in their implementation of the integer linked list are going to stay the same. I haven't looked at the details of them. Now there might be a few that would change. For instance, we're going to have to have this find, which finds an index. That's okay. In your assignment, they say that we have to create methods called isEmpty, size, lookup. That lookup is going to replace the find. And in fact, if we look at their find again, they're searching for, say, the 5th entry or the 3rd entry when they say find. They want you to return a particular one. When we do a lookup, we're going to pass in Ozil and get back a value of the team, which would be Arsenal. And they want us to have an insert method and a delete method and a make empty method. But again, the assignment is to start with this integer list.java example that they gave, and we're going to change that instead of being an integer list into being a dictionary list. And I think their example isn't obviously with players and teams, but that's pretty much what we're going to have to do. Just replace this node class with this node class and then implement those new methods. That's it, I think. Thank you.